Hi, everyone. Welcome to at the Westchester ASU-GSV Summit. I am Kevin Gray, and we will begin in just a second. Hi, all. So welcome to the Westchester Education Services Summit here at ASU-GSV. This is the first of two business-to-business EdTech showcases. So in this showcase, what we're going to do is highlight some of the partners that Westchester works with. A little bit about Westchester: we're a full-service educational development company. What that means is we work for EdTech and ed publisher companies to help them create product for the market. We work in all of the major discipline areas, as well as CTE, SEL, culturally responsible education, and early learning. But this is really more about some of the other companies here. So I've got three panelists. I've got David Bainbridge. David is the founder of Beau Clips, which is a service that provides curated videos and simplified licensing for the education market. I've got Kylene Chinsio Shen. She is the president and CEO of Evidently. Her company works to revolutionize the way efficacy testing is conducted. And then finally, Chris Morgan, who is the president of WeBuildLearning. Chris's team provides custom web development and specializes in using AI to fast forward assessment creation. So this will work is each of our panelists will do a brief presentation about their organization. We'll open it up for Q&A at about the 15-minute mark. So if you've got questions, please post them in the chat, and I'll be monitoring those. And then for the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll break out into breakout rooms where you can meet with any of the individuals here. So without further ado, let me turn this over to David. The stage is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Kevin. That's great. I'm hoping that some slides are about to go live. There we go. Look at that. Seamless. A pleasure to meet you all. I think I'm probably the first Brit on the ASU-GSV lineup. It's in fact wine o'clock here, so I'll be looking forward to my first glass of rosé in about 55 minutes time. So as Kevin said, I'm the founder of Beau Clips, which provides video licensing and technology solutions to the global education market. I think, as we all know, COVID has had a huge impact on the global education market. Up to 1.5 billion students learning from home during the first half of 2020. And as we move forward into 2021, the new word du jour is hybrid. And in the US market, we're looking at about 75% of public schools operating in that kind of hybrid manner. And I think, it's a testament to the teachers that we have in our nations around the world, that they've managed to get educational materials into student hands during the early stages of the pandemic. And they did that via learning management systems and other tools. But as we move forward, those same educators are now really turning their attention to how they make remote learning more engaging, given the fact that they're just going to have less time face-to-face with their students in class. And in this new modality, if we can call it that, text and quizzes just don't really suffice. Video, with its proven ability to introduce complex concepts and provide real-world context, no longer becomes a kind of a nice-to-have. It's much more of a must-have. And that's really what we are as a business here to try and help provide. And listen, if you're a teacher, or on the left-hand side, as you look at the screen, you're a courseware developer, getting hold of video content is kind of tricky, right? If you want to use that famous clip of Felix Baumgartner jumping out of the Red Bull balloon from space to illustrate terminal velocity in your physics textbook, whose door do you knock on? Do you go to Felix Baumgartner's agent? Do you go to CNN, who held the broadcast footage? Do you go to Red Bull? It's not easy. It's complicated. It's not necessarily given that footage that is cleared for broadcast is cleared also for the education market. And it's certainly true to say that the economics in education are very different from the world of media. And there's also typically a lot of creative restriction that comes with licensing a particular clip. If you're a teacher on the right-hand side, or you're a professor at the university level, what you tend to do, if you're allowed to, through your institutional firewall, is you go to YouTube or other open video platforms. That content, of course, is not educationally curated. It's not age-aligned. There is the potential, particularly at the moment, for clips to be sent to students and those students to then bounce off into inappropriate content. And just last week, there was more concern raised about suicides being filmed live and uploaded onto YouTube. And the last piece, of course, is that YouTube is not integrated into any of the tool sets necessarily that I use as a teacher. So all of that kind of takes time and a considerable amount of effort. And I'm not going to dwell on YouTube. I think you all probably understand that it's very much an entertainment platform, and it's not really first and foremost something that has been set up with the educational sector in mind. So what Beau Clips is here to do, and Beau Clips has been around for about 6 years now, is bring together the world's video content that is relevant for education into a single platform that is curated and age-leveled for the global education market. So in the US market, our content, which is 2 million video clips from over 220 different award-winning brands, that's all tagged and aligned to Common Core and NGSS standards. So, for example, if I want to use the latest announcements on Trump's tax evasion in my class the next day, I have the ability to do that. I can also talk about the Brexit issue here in the UK. I can talk about terminal velocity, or I can show terminal velocity examples, or I can show in biology cytoplasms. All of that content, K through 20, is covered through this single secure platform. And what it does, as I've said, is it curates that content. All of the content is copyright cleared. Of course, it doesn't bounce off to other content that perhaps might not be relevant in the classroom. It's editable, and of course, it's completely accessible. So it's set up in a way with closed captions and full transcripts for those that are either audibly or visually impaired. And a key thing, I think, as well, when it comes to video content, is that it's continuously updated. The world where we could publish once and kind of forget about it is gone. What students expect from their learning materials, as well as the videos within that, is current, relevant content. As an education provider, I can either download content and embed that into my digital textbooks for a 5, 10, 25-year license, or I can integrate the platform directly into my products and services via API and allow the whole platform to be made available to my end users as a safe, curated, age-leveled alternative to YouTube. All on a white label basis. So if you like, the Beau Clips brand disappears, and the product or service then is able to avail its end users with everyone from TED to the Smithsonian to the Wall Street Journal to Bloomberg and so on. So that's really it. That's my probably, hopefully slightly less than 5 minutes, my roundup. Please feel free to join me in the room afterwards, or contact me at david@beauclips.com after the conference. Many thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you, David. Next will be Kylene.
Great. Thank you. And thanks, Kevin and Westchester, for having us all on here. I'm excited to join the conversation. My name is Kylene Chinsio Shen. I am CEO of Evidentally. And Evidentally is a Silicon Valley-based company that helps other edtech companies and school districts get evidence about what works through automated product evaluation. We are very much a mission-driven company aiming to improve the efficacy of edtech products for all users, at the same time giving educators evidence about what works in their particular schools. A few statistics here that kind of help set up the landscape of edtech today in the US. Each year, schools in the US, K-12 schools, spend an estimated $13 billion on education technology. And the average school district uses over 700 different edtech apps per month. And this number is only increasing with the advent of digital and remote learning. But in a recent study, the Jefferson Education Exchange found that an estimated 85% of these EdTech, these technologies are either a poor fit or implemented incorrectly. And unfortunately, that's not too surprising to us because we know that the majority of these EdTech applications are purchased without any research providing evidence that they work. So obviously, the big question is, why is this happening and where is the evidence? The problem is that traditional academic research, specifically efficacy evaluation, is oftentimes very costly, very time-consuming, and therefore very inaccessible. But the need is still there. Schools want to know not only does this product work overall, but does it work for my specific students and my teachers? And companies obviously understand the importance of measuring impact, not only to increase sales and get funding, but for product development. And so Evidently fills those needs. We're changing the way that EdTech and educators view research, making it more affordable, actionable, and ultimately accessible. And we're doing that by something we say we are productizing the research services industry. So instead of all the time-consuming manual processes, our evidence suite uses automated statistical algorithms to produce a series of analytic and efficacy reports. And our reports answer questions such as who is using your product, who are your most active users and where are they located? Are you reaching, what populations are you reaching? Are you reaching higher or lower percentages of typically underserved students than the national average? How is usage related to outcomes? Is it really the case that the more usage of your product leads to better outcomes, or is there a point of diminishing returns? Are there certain aspects of your product that are correlated either negatively or positively with specific outcomes? And then, of course, what is the impact of your product? And arguably more importantly, what is the impact on specific subgroups of users? Because again, it's not enough to know if the product works overall, but we need to know exactly who is benefiting or not from your product. All of the correlation and impact reports that we provide through Evidence Suite meets either Tiers 2 or Tier 3 of the Every Student Succeeds Act, these evidence standards, the SS evidence standards. And this is important because a lot of funding that schools receive is tied to ESSA, and spending is oftentimes restricted to products that demonstrate efficacy. Our correlation reports meet Tier 3, promising evidence of impact. And this really provides information that developers can use to improve their product, whether it's improving the implementation models or adjusting best practices and so on. Our Level 2 impact reports meet the moderate evidence tier in ESSA, and these are really the reports that tell you whether your product works. And so obviously your marketing and sales teams are going to be using this to sell into schools and districts. And some of you may also find it helpful to show to your funders and investors if you're going for that second round or third round of funding. We were founded in late 2018, and so to date, we've worked with over 20 different organizations providing efficacy and data analytic reports. Our customers include EdTech developers, school districts, and sponsors, funders or investors who provide these reports for their district or venture portfolio. And obviously, we're looking forward to partnering with all of you and with Westchester on your data analytic needs. And so I'm looking forward to meeting with some of you in the breakout rooms. If we don't get a chance to connect, please feel free to reach out. My email and phone number is there, and hope to speak with all of you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Kylene. And I also understand it's your birthday, so happy birthday.
Thank you.
All right, Chris.
Hi, everybody. Happy birthday, Kylene. Let's see. So my name is Chris Morgan. I'm the president of a company called WeBuildLearning, and essentially we're an EdTech, a custom EdTech group. We do a lot of work with many of the major companies that you would probably be familiar with, the Pearsons and the McGraw-Hills and the Lunosities and the Canvas and Blackboards of the world. But we also develop our own products, and I'm going to focus today on one of those products called AI Test Banks. So a little bit about AI Test Banks is this is a relatively new product that we rolled out this year. And the problem it aims to solve is that really since the early 2000s, as more and more courseware came online and as more and more learning occurred online, one of the most popular and effective features is online assessments. Whether that be in a formative state or in a high stakes type of assessment. The need for more and more quality test items has grown for anybody that's a content provider. And so the problem we're trying to solve is to use artificial intelligence to make that more predictable, lower cost, faster, and ultimately higher quality. So our process in doing so is we take as an input, as you can see over here on the left of this graph, we take as an input edited material, so published edited material, whether that be a textbook or an online course or an existing test bank. And from that, our algorithms parse every sentence, every figure, every table, every call out, and identify, based on the patterns in that content, different types of things. It identifies the taxonomy of the content, the table of contents. It identifies all the key concepts to be covered in the content. And it from the patterns in the content, it creates as many quality test items as possible. So at that point, we have web tools and our own subject matter experts that run through every single one of those items that have been created by our AI. And they either say, yes, this is a good item, and I'm going to save it. Or they say, no, this is not an acceptable item, I'm going to reject it. And they usually give several reasons for doing so. Either way, as they go through that process, our machine learning learns from that. And over time, we get better and better and better at creating quality questions. The output is typically for, usually we're working with either a test bank or a textbook, and the output is typically thousands of items. To give you an idea of scale, everybody understands a chapter. We can usually generate about 200 items per chapter for an ideal textbook or for an average textbook. So I'll give you just a couple of examples of the types of items. It's not only that we're creating items, we're focusing on rigor in those items and making sure that those items are as high quality as possible. So this is one example of an item that we create. Our technology actually parses every figure in the text. And if that figure has words in it, it looks to see if those words seem to cover a key concept that is being taught in the text. If so, it automatically creates these drag and drop type exercises. So this is a pretty rigorous assessment in this particular case. And we can also present that same question in multiple choice format. And in that way, the question would say, in the image above, which of the following numbers represents, the inner tube or whatever it is that you're looking at. This is another example where we actually look at the text and we find patterns where examples or case studies are being represented in the text. And if so, we can pull those out and build a matching exercise where the student is asked to match the example or case study to the concept that it relates to. This is a little bit hard to see on this screen, but basically what this is anytime you have a system or a process, in this case, the stages of transcription, we represent either that whole process in order, or our algorithms will reorder the process or change things about it. And the student is asked to rate that process on a rubric of whether it's complete and accurate, complete but inaccurate, incomplete but accurate, and so on. So that's a very rigorous question type there that the student has to really know the concepts of a system or a process thoroughly in order to answer that correctly. And what we can do is build many different versions of this, where in one case it might be accurate, in another case it might not be accurate or complete. Here's an example of a key phrase. If key phrases are used within the context of the text, we'll pull those sentences out and build questions like this, where you have to identify which the key phrases should go in the text. And this is another example of a process that I'll show you. So just a few examples, but again, our goal is we take that input, which is your edited, tried and true content. We run it through our systems and generate output that is exactly matches the scope and sequence and the tone of whatever the source text is, and it's already been edited. And then we run that through with subject matter experts to make sure those are quality questions. Some other questions that we can do if we're using a test bank is we can create variable-based assessments, where if this is a math assessment, we can have our subject matter experts take the existing assessment, create variables within it or identify variables, and then essentially backward engineer each of the distractors in the correct answer so that those can be fed back into our system to create multiple new questions based on the existing question. This is an example of an ELA question where our system identifies keywords, and if you identify the keyword, we'll automatically build comprehension questions for if you understand that key concept. In this case, we're talking about the word competitive, and so it's automatically determine other terms or words that could be competitive. In addition to creating those questions, we also create metadata for all our questions. So each one of our questions comes with a rationale. We actually grab the excerpt from the text from which it was taken as a rationale. It can be tied to outcomes, so standards or learning objectives, depth of knowledge. And in the case of a textbook or online course, we also identify the chapter and the section to which it was related, and we can identify page number as well. So that's all metadata that comes along with all of our questions. So that's a little bit about WeBuildLearning, one of our products, which again is AI Test Banks, and look forward to talking to you in the breakout rooms.
All right, thanks, Chris. So just a reminder, if you have questions, post them in the Q&A section of the chat. I have a few questions that I'm curious about, so we'll start with mine, and then as folks dive in. And then we'll do this for about 5 or 10 minutes and then dive into the breakout rooms, and I'll explain in a minute how that'll work. So a couple questions. And I'll open this up to all three of you. So what, obviously big changes this year with the switch very rapidly to online learning. And then this now very different hybrid, some online, some in class, some doing a little bit of both. That probably represented some opportunities. So I'd be curious to hear what opportunities you saw in this new market, or that you continue to see in this new market. And I'll open. Kylene, we'll start with you. It's your birthday.
Sounds good. When it started to become evident that this shift to digital learning was not just temporary, it's here to stay, we saw a lot of ed tech companies starting to kind of question their customer base and the changes that they saw in usage of their products. So for example, a company might have seen an increase in usage in maybe some suburban districts, but a decrease in urban districts. And so obviously, looking at patterns, understanding, why is this happening? Is this temporary? What kind of factors are contributing to this? Questions that all ed tech companies were asking themselves during this phase. And so, we're able to actually help companies kind of take a look and analyze their usage data to see, okay, pre-COVID and now, here's how your customer base has changed. In some cases, we might be able to identify some districts that are actually having really strong usage of your product. And they may be located in areas that are typically, underprivileged or have less resources. And so that might be a good kind of site to look and see, okay, what kinds of innovative implementations are they doing that maybe can be replicated in other districts. And so that was definitely one of the ways that we, kind of helped during, the shift, is understanding customer patterns and of usage.
Excellent. And I assume that'll be pretty helpful as companies are trying to figure out if they're going back to a paywall situation, or what that looks like. I can see that would provide a huge value. Chris or David, for you, what opportunities did you see?
Well, I guess having heard Kylene and Chris today, we would love to sort of work with both companies, both your companies, moving forwards, because evidencing obviously the impact of our services is critical, as is being able to generate assessments of video material, which is something that really hasn't been explored hitherto. But our primary go-to-market is B2B, so we provide our platform on a white label basis into those of our partners around the world. But what we did do at the start of the pandemic was open up our streaming platform just for teachers to be able to use, to see the content that we have and to use it as a safe alternative to YouTube. We seeded that in the US market and also in other markets around the world. And we did zero marketing, just left it to word of mouth. But by the end of kind of May and sort of as we ended the academic year, the number of US teachers on that service, which was called Beau Clips for Teachers, had gone from kind of 0 to 18,000 teachers. So, you know, it was a small sort of R&D trial for us to evidence back to our distribution partners that there was really something. This was something they needed to really think about, and it caught us completely by surprise. And, you know, for example, could we now dig further into that data with you know what Kylene provides and you know find some interesting patterns that kind of come out of it. So yeah, it was I mean, for everyone, it's been a very interesting journey, I think.
Excellent. And you, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, we work with a lot of big online providers in the educational technology space, and 201, every single one of them had you know 2 to 3x increase in usage. I also saw a pattern with the clients that we work with, where many of them had plans to you know not completely online services, but had plans to eventually go completely online, and some of them had to move quickly and adapt quickly to get those plans in place. I was actually just on the line before this call with one of our clients who, you know, they had a tentative plan in place, and because of COVID, really to save their business, they had to pivot very quickly, and it worked out really well for them. So, you know, I think in many ways, people have been planning for at least a majority online to a fully online world, but we thought we would have a lot more time to do so. But all the infrastructure is there, and a lot of companies like David's were able to react to really help people out.
Okay, excellent. What are ways that you could partner with other B2Bs? I mean, David, you touched on this a little bit, and obviously we have a vested interest in this, and we're interested in partnering. Because we see it as a way to provide a whole solution. So what are ways that you see that you might partner with a company like Westchester to give an end customer a full spectrum? And we'll go in reverse order. We'll put you first, Chris.
Yeah, for us, it's actually a really nice fit because we develop automated test banks, and we have the need for knowledgeable subject matter experts. So actually, Kevin and I have talked in the past about how there's a really nice partnership there, and especially in some of the areas like mathematics, where the subject matter expertise is, we need not only mathematicians, but people who can work in technology and with technology to translate math in certain ways. And so that's a unique skill set, and Westchester's has a lot of folks like that we can kind of lean on.
Yeah, thank you. David.
Yeah, no, I would echo what Chris has said. So we're very clear what we think we have experience in, which is, you know, working with 250 different video providers and media owners around the world, clearing those rights, putting them somewhere that might make sense for businesses like Westchester and the subject matter experts that you have, and to help those folk bring, you know, their materials to life wherever and however they want to, sort of using video, and to remove that headache. So, you know, our business model is resolutely B2B, and you know, hopefully we've created a tool set that just kind of makes that that world of video easier for companies like Westchester.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to that. Your product is very robust. And you and I met 6 months ago, 8 months ago, and when you're first showing it to us, it was pretty excited about it. There's a lot of great content there. Kylene, how about you?
Sure. Well, one of the ways that we can help, I guess, with partnering with companies in this panel, taking a look at usage patterns for product content. So, for example, if a company is looking to expand their product line or add additional content, obviously, you can see, Westchester, Beau Clips helping, WeBuildLearning helping with the additional content. And once that's, had initial use in the marketplace, we can kind of take a look and see how different subgroups of users are interacting with that content, because we know that not everybody interacts with content equally. So for example, if a company's adding coaching sessions or mentoring sessions and PD, are there certain subgroups of students, maybe English language learners, so on and so forth, different groups that interact more or less, engage more or less with the content. So it can definitely help with some patterns of usage there.
Yeah, that's great. I know a lot of companies rely on their sales force who are talking with the districts and such to be able to kind of predict what their customers are hearing. But I like the ability to use data to see, okay, here's what's being used, here's what's not, here, and sort of questioning that and seeing what are areas we can improve, what are areas we can grow in, what are the really popular areas. So I think that's fascinating. So thank you. We're going to cut to the break rooms here. This is the first time I think that anyone with ASU-GSV has tried to cut to the break rooms. For the participants, it does not appear that you can self-select a break room, but if you will go into the chat, let us know which of the groups that you would like to speak to. And Nicole on the back end, who I owe a huge thanks to. She's not on the video, but she's in the background. She's doing all the heavy lifting, and she's been fabulous putting this together. Nicole will help move you into the various break rooms. So if you're interested in Beau Clips, just put in that you want to go see them. They're in room 1. If you're interested in Evidently, room 2, and if you're interested in WeBuildLearning, room 3. We'll actually have Westchester folks in each of the rooms, so if you want to talk to any of us, we'll be in one of those rooms. So I'll leave it to folks to self-select. All right, I see some coming in. Thank you. All right, we're gonna wrap now.
Okay.
All right.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, technology was a little left in forward, but hopefully it was rewarding.
Yeah, it was. Thanks for inviting us.
Oh,
let's go up.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.